if anyone's curious about astrology and understanding themselves at that deeper level, start exploring the elements of your sun, moon, and rising sign. Because when you understand the elements and how they play out in your life and the archetypes, it just gives you a deeper sense of self acceptance.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast Viz on the Brain with your host, me, Anne Marie, where we talk about how to be your most unapologetic and authentic self in life and business and anywhere in between because you deserve it, queen. And how is astrology related to fashion, and how can you just quickly just skip around these topics? Well, A, if you're ADHD, that's no problem at all. And B, this is exactly what happened in this podcast episode with Hannah Dudley, who is an astrologer and who used to be in fashion. And she is just so passionate about reading the stars and the movement of the planets and how it really helps you figure out your strengths and weaknesses. And it's almost like a permission slip to tap into what you already naturally feel inclined to do and how you feel inclined to express yourself. But it is backed up by science, and a lot of people will contest that astrology isn't just woo-woo. A lot of people will not see the signs of it, but we're not talking to those people. If you feel like you're a skeptic, you want to learn more, please stay. If you get really upset when people talk about astrology because you think that's all utter nonsense, feel free to leave, because I don't want you to be upset. That's not a good energy to have. But if you're curious and if you like free-flowing conversations about anything and everything, especially when it's about self-development, knowing yourself, the stars, the moons, the fashion, then stay. And let me introduce you to the wonderful Hannah Dudley. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Hannah. And I just am so excited to talk to you about intuition, authenticity, and astrology. So can you tell people what you're about?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love these kind of intuitive conversations. So when I saw your podcast, I was like, yeah, I want to talk to Anne Marie. Um, yeah, well, gosh, where do I start with it all? I guess, well, for me, astrology is like being life changing. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it really has when I found it. And I guess I've always kind of been interested in it since I was a teenager. But for me, it makes sense. Like we're cyclical, particularly as women, and understanding your chart and how things are, kind of the energy in your chart really just helps you understand who you are at a deeper level. And it's given me like a sense of like, yeah, self acceptance and self confidence, which I struggled with before. So yeah, it's eye opening, and it's kind of a long life journey, which I think will continue for the rest of my life. So yeah, and I think it does help you be more authentic, because we've had in this world we have so many conditionings and layers that we need to unpick, that actually understanding your birth chart, well, for me, has helped me understand, that's why I'm sensitive, or that's why I'm so creative. And actually, it's just a part of me, and that's who I am at my core. So it's just a beautiful tool for that, really.
And it's like a permission slip, because sometimes you just know things, but you don't allow yourself to express that, or you're shamed into conforming in a more traditional way. When you feel like this, no, this works for me. I can't explain it, but it just feel drawn to express myself in that way. And because for me, I've been deconditioned to not be myself. All of my childhood, I was always told how to not be me. That was the nice little comments and helpful criticism that I was given, that what I've been doing, how I've been doing things is not appropriate enough. How I too much, too little, too loud, too quiet, too unfocused, too creative. Everything was just too much. And I was so I'm too broken. I don't get it. And I found the more learn about all of these old signs and ways we are affected. And you just become mindful of how you just don't just be living by yourself. You can't just heal yourself by yourself. Like you just react. You're still like, we're still all kind of animals living with nature, living in the
Mm.
universe, and everything has some energetic pull and some reaction. And yeah, you can't just live in your bubble. So I found that is really, really interesting to give yourself more permission and then to also give grace to other people by extension.
Mm.
When you're like, okay, so I am responsible for myself. I only know myself as much as I allow myself to, but also I will always know myself better than anybody else. So it makes no
Yeah.
sense for me to put it on other people to read my thoughts or to put it on other people to conform the way I need them to in my life. So
Mm.
like it just becomes a sort of thing to just let people be, but let yourself be, which I think is
Mm.
tricky in the society because we're always told what the rules are. And sometimes the
Yeah.
rules are different and arbitrary. And just go to a different country, suddenly rules are different. It's just human made. And
Absolutely.
astrology isn't really human made. It's just like
No.
science observational. It's not a horoscope. So what's your take
Mm.
on horoscope, astrology for like hobbyists and like the actual science behind it?
Mm. Gosh. Well, I love that you're saying about commission. I think that is great because it does give you permission to be yourself. And especially being creative, like I know you are and I am. It was incredible for that. Um and so reframe that. Just the science of
Yeah.
astrology.
Yeah, just like the different things people associate with astrology are varied, right? There's people who just
Yeah.
think of horoscopes in a magazine, like Barnum Effect. Other people are like hobbyists in astrology. They just look at their moon chart every now and then, where, but they don't really dive deep in, which is fine. But then there's
Mm.
like the actual science of astrology, where it's not just looking at a couple like my ascent like rising sign is in Cancer and like that's what I'm compatible with, but like it's
No.
actually day in, day out how it affects your trajectory in life, how it affects your day. And there's all of these things also where if you are just knowing what the planets are doing, then
Mm.
you are not as affected for some reason. I still don't quite know how that works. But
But
I keep adding
yeah,
stuff.
it's okay. It's a huge topic, as you know, and uh, yeah, it's basically I love a skeptic, and that whole thing of saying about horoscopes. I think, and that's where I first kind of loved reading my horoscope when I was like a teenager, and what's going to happen kind of thing. And I get why people are skeptical because it's just a tiny snippet of who you are at your core. Like, for example, we understand our zodiac sign, right? So I'm a Capricorn, was born January 13th. But that's as far as it goes unless people dive in. And I think there are so many aspects and layers to it. But essentially, for women, understanding your moon sign is just a light bulb moment when you find out your emotional nature. I'm very passionate about moon signs. And that's one aspect, getting to know your birth chart and the natural energy in your chart and how it kind of manifests for you in your life is super helpful because as you said before, we're so conditioned in this world that we go against our nature and we go against our rhythm. But actually this is like an internal compass to follow, which is incredible because if we are multi-passionate creative beings, which I am and many of my clients are, then it's like a roadmap, right? Just right there. So that's kind of one aspect. And then there's as you said, looking at the energies and what they're doing, like the moon cycles. That's something that I follow and teach because if we're I know how to phrase this, but being highly sensitive myself and being kind of sensitive to energies, it's super helpful to know like when the full moon is that I'm going to be more energetic and it might be a bit hyper at that time. Whereas on a new moon, it's a time to plant your seeds and time for new beginnings. So that aspect can help you be more intentional in your life and business, which is really helpful. So that's kind of another aspect. And then there's the general, you know, energy collectively of what's going on and how it affects us. So it is such a complex topic. And yeah, when I kind of people say, well, where do I start with it all? I would just say, break it down, like get to know, when I say star sign, when you're born, get to know we call it the sun sign in astrology, get to know your moon sign and your ascendant, because those are the three kind of core energies and archetypes that I would say start there if you're like overwhelmed with it all. So yeah, that's kind of a a bit of a snapshot on it. Yeah.
And what would you say to the skeptics who are like, it's just a, whatever, Barnum effect. You can like talk yourself into these things, but how do you differentiate that with the science of it? Because there is the science of it.
Yeah. Um, it's hard. I think it's hard. I think as humans, we judge things we don't understand, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm skeptical about that because I don't understand how it works, and it seems kind of like alien to people. But I would say just have an open mind because until you start seeing how the energy is manifesting for you, you might not believe in it. And that's totally okay because I can tell you it's incredible, but until you've experienced it, you might judge it, and that's fine. So yeah, I would say just be curious, keep an open mind and kind of just even notice how the moon affects you, right? We're made up of 70% water and, the moon literally moves the tide. So it kind of seems strange for it not to affect us as humans. So I kind of would start there. And I think people, humans, we like to be logical and explain how everything happens. But to me, the magic is in that unknown as well, right? Like, those synchronicities which I've experienced from, learning about astrology and my birth chart, those things come from that unknown where you're open and you surrender to something higher, I guess, like that. I call it divine or whatever you believe in, the universe. I feel like a lot of people are skeptical because they think it's fate. But it's down to the actions you take as well. So you've got this birth chart that's completely unique to you and specifically at the time of your birth, and it's a roadmap, but how that energy and how those archetypes play out is dependent on, the actions you take as well. So we do have we are acting in that. We are making, you know, we are the actor in our lives, right? In that play. So we get to decide what happens, and that's exciting.
So true. Because ultimately, the stars don't care about you. The planets don't care. So it could just be like you can just struggle and like against it, ignore it, or you can just realize, okay, like this current whatever energy is going on, I might just honor that and then work in the capacity, like you said, like when you are low energy because maybe the moon affects you or like you can't sleep because the full moon is always like making you super sensitive and emotional, that instead of just berating yourself you could be like accepting. It's just like an observation. Okay, this is how I act when this thing happens, and then instead of trying to force yourself to comply to whatever notion and systems you have put in place, you actually work along with it, and that's I guess how it affects you less but also helps you more. It's like the more you know with your specific signs, and not just read the horoscope, which doesn't say anything at all. You can actually work with yourself but with outside guidance of some sort, just like instead of going against the current, you just go along with it.
Yeah.
But like on a bigger sphere, not just like in nature, you don't want to like go through an actual storm. You maybe want to seek shelter, and the same with the stars. Like if the planetary things are doing something, why keep pushing unnecessarily?
Exactly. It's helpful to understand. And I'm curious now, have you looked into or do you follow the moon cycles or are aware of kind of those energies working?
Really, I try to, then I keep forgetting to check, and then I don't quite know what to do. And I just like it was just funny. Like I've always been very sensitive when I don't know. It's like something was just like, why can't I sleep? And I look outside, I'm like, yep, it's the full moon. Like, well,
Right?
I just like, oh, something's off. Like, I wonder. And I just like look outside and I'm like, oh, it's a new moon. I don't, I never keep track of it. But then I just have something and I think about it. And then it's like, it's that again. Like, like clockwork. Or like even one point, I saw like a TikTok on there was this woman say like how great it is if you like sync up the periods or moon. I was
Yep.
thinking, I was just like, I can't just decide to have the period on the new moon because that matches with the shedding and letting go. And like, guess what? Like the next day was, I think, on new moon and my period started. It was like,
Uh-huh.
it was early. It wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that time. And it just like happened despite
Yeah.
me. And I was
Fascinating.
like, but yeah, it was like, warmth. And I just like felt better of sorts. I was like, like it matched the rhythm. And that kind of made things easier for me to plan. I don't know how it works,
Yeah.
but it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that.
did I just trick
Yeah.
myself? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? But
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. It's like you're open to it. And actually, this is the amazing thing that I still find mind blowing is actually, as women, our cycles are roughly 29 days. It's the same as the moon sign from new moon to new moon. So actually, it makes sense if we're in tune with it. For me, anyway, working with the moon has helped me understand like what I need on a daily basis and helped kind of being that mirror to like, okay, how do I feel? Like, how can I work with that rhythm, like you said? And I've healed. I used to suffer from like excruciating period cramps, and that was kind of what led me. Did you? Right?
Yeah. So bad. Still have them, but not as bad. Like I used to be unable to even lie in bed. I just vomited. I was like in so much pain. And like my entire body was so weak and like I would just collapse, but people would never take it seriously.
Oh,
So
that's
it's like,
awful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the thing, we're so out of touch with our natural cycle and the rhythms of nature
Yeah.
that actually that journey of understanding and tracking the moon cycles for me was really healing. And it helped me kind of be more aware of what I needed on a daily basis because I wasn't giving it to myself. So from that perspective, the moon can be an incredible mirror into like your emotional world to help you deepen that connection with your body and what it's telling you. And, I think it's fascinating. Years ago, women used to sync up with each other and then they would sit in a red tent circle, right? I'd come back to the men with all this wisdom that they had received, right? So
Mhm.
in this fast paced world we live in, we're not taught how to kind of be intentional and go with our energy. So we just
Yep.
bash, bash, push, push, push when actually we need to lean back and be feminine, right?
It just makes so much sense. Like when you're on your period and especially when you're in pain, why do we make women just go to school, go to work? Because like I always like pushed so hard. I always try to not inconvenience people. Like I would just sit completely pale in class trying to like prop myself up because I couldn't even sit. Right. And then I would like get scolded for not paying enough attention. I would like every month I would go to the secretary and be like, can you call my mom? She's like, oh, you're always so dramatic. Every month you come, like, it's every month I have my period. Just like, oh, you're being dramatic. I was like, please give me the pen. She's like, not again. I was like, give me the pen. Because I was like, I was about to pop. Then I vomited. Then like, I just like, grabbed it. And she would complain about this. And it's like, how more dramatic should I be for you to like have any empathy at all? It was horrible. And like when I started, being self-employed, I was just like, how about I'm not working today? That was a whole process, allowing myself that. But now my pain is just like gone after a day. It's like, I'm fine. If I just vegetate on my bed for a day and I eat a chocolate or I just sleep all day, whatever I need, I am fine. And usually I would have dragged on for an entire week. And now, yeah, or like even sometimes, and like I walk every day. Sometimes I like walk for a couple hours and just, I'm usually like, I don't do sports. I'm not like a fit person, but like I'm good with
Mm.
walking, like, and then some days I'm just like, why is everything hard? Why do I sweat so much? And then I just look at the calendar and I'm like, it's like the week before my period.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do anything. I can't go on a mountain.
Yeah.
I can't go into town. And I
Yeah.
just sit on all the benches and like go from bench to bench if I wanted to go. And now that I know that, I'm just be like, yeah, I'm just benching. Like I'm not even walk. I'm just benching. It's fine. And then, I don't work against myself. And
Yeah.
that's just also like when I see like women struggle, and I'm just like, I do need like, we can just sit. We don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's that self-awareness, isn't it? That for your period, you need more time. You need to vegetate or sleep, whatever you need to do. And it just still blows my mind. Why haven't we been taught this stuff? It makes me angry. I was getting so fired up this week because I've been reading the Love Your Lady Landscape. I don't know if you've heard of the book by by Lisa
No.
Lister.
It kind of sounds like a wishing for waxing or something, but I guess not.
Right? So go read the book by Lisa Lister. My friend borrowed it. I borrowed it from a friend. But anyway, she's talking about we need to tune into this womb wisdom. And, I've been syncing up or noticing the moon cycles for about 4 or 5 years. And I still feel like I'm just at the edge of understanding all of this wisdom because we kind of operate so much from our heads, Like, I think I'm a creative person. I have ideas all the time. But actually, when I decide which idea to act from, I often get so in my head that I overthink it, right? And don't actually go with the thing that's coming from that almost like that deeper place, that knowing, which I think we
That
need to listen to.
And that's also something that women, especially, like, everybody has this intuition. Like we all are like, survival trained animals. Like it's in everybody, but I feel like especially for women, we are much more somehow in tune with it. Like,
Mm.
be it in tune with the moon or whatever. Like you just know certain. Like I suddenly know, especially when I like travel, that I'm much more like receptive of things happening around me, like people I can suss out really easily if
Right.
they vibe with me, if they don't, if they're like up to no good or not. Like a lot of people always doubted me on it or try to like, oh, give people a chance or like this and that. And just like, yeah, no. Right. And I was always right.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
was like, I don't want to be right. Like that person is like trouble. I don't want to be like an asshole. But next thing I know, they rock me. And I'm like, I don't want to say it. I told you so, but right. I'm like, that's as like obvious as you can get. If they end up robbing me and I told you they're bad.
Mm.
So,
It's
yeah.
that feeling. You trust your feelings, right? Sometimes you can't explain that gut feeling or that knowing you get about something. It's just, I think it's part of the magic of being a woman. If we learn how to listen to that voice, that's going to support us in our business and in our lives and make everything a whole lot easier instead of keep pushing like we've been taught to do. It's very masculine, you know.
Oh, it's so true. But it's also this conditioning of like being the people pleasing, subservient woman. Like, like so often, like we know we constantly have to be on our guards to some extent. Like you can't walk the street alone at night. They have to take precautions. Or like if people hit on you, like you just need to like suss out real quick what their intention is. You can't just go hitchhike. Like you always have to be gauging for something if they're safe enough or not. And a lot of times, especially when you do void some concerns or like you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I should date this person, like there's some red flags and people will be like quick to dismiss that. And
Mm.
then like there's so many things where it's just like just listen to yourself and
Absolutely.
yeah, just like don't even ask for feedback.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you just like when you hear that voice, when you just I don't know, whatever that feeling manifests, you just
Mm.
that it's just then a fact. And you don't even have to know why, because our
Yeah.
subconscious there's also been like interesting studies done on that, but our subconscious like gets so many information in such a short amount of time that your brain could never process on a
Mm.
conscious level. it constantly gauges all of the inputs, like body language, like patterns, all of that stuff. And so like you cannot put logic in there because logic would have not been able to get all of the data sets evaluated in that time. So you just have to be like, yeah, this is a definite no, a definite yes for me. Even if it feels
Yeah.
weird, even if it feels like you're the bitch. Sometimes,
Yeah.
I'd rather be a bitch than be like dead in a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Put it on the shirt.
But it's true. Like, we need to learn to trust. We need to learn to trust ourselves, right? We haven't been taught to trust that gut feeling you get. And oh God, I've been on a dating journey for years. And I think so many times deep down I knew that person wasn't right for me, but I'm open minded, so I'll just give them another shot and go on another date. And it wasn't right. It was a should. It wasn't a hell yes. Like
Yeah.
why do we do these things to ourselves? Because yeah, it's all about trusting ourselves, I think. And that's a journey in itself. So
Oh, yes. I'm so on it. I'm so getting there. But like, and I think that's why like stuff like astrology is helpful because it can help you navigate the path back to yourself on learning things. So like get to know yourself because especially as you're an adult, people are just assume you've like a baseline of maturity and intelligence and self actuality. Then you're just like still this overgrown toddler, and so you have to do all the taxes and have to like adult and be social, and you're just like, I don't know, I just want to wrap myself in a blanket and be a taco today. Yeah, but I just do that, right? But like, and then you override all of your impulses because you can't just have like a mental breakdown in the middle of your desk at work, like it's not good, but maybe it's actually necessary, or maybe it teaches you something that you can ignore, that you shouldn't be a pushover and be bullied at work. Maybe you should actually quit. And then there's all of these people who like give you advice from their own projection, from outside perspectives, good or bad, asked for or not. And that just gives you so much noise that will just override this inside voice. Definitely for me, it was always like, okay, everybody seems so sure of themselves, which is also like a psychological like trick because you just don't have the discernment that you have towards yourself. You see all of the different variables, all of your doubts, but like when it comes to other people, you just see it as more black and white because you don't have any insight into their life and background. So it's easier to make decisions for other people or give quick advice than it would be for yourself on the same problem. You would think it's so complex, nobody could ever get it, but you don't get that allowance to other people, which is a normal human thing. But like, again, that's where mindfulness comes in, and where it's just like, okay, I'm going to shut out the advice. I'm not going to ask people. Like currently I try to be on an advice detox after like catch myself when I'm like, what would you know? I don't want to know what you would do because then I will start doubting myself because you might be so much more knowledge. Like I always put other people before because like, how would I know? They always seem more adult and put together than I am, which is a illusion. So I was just like, no, I need to ask myself.
that's great. Yeah, I think that's so good. No, it's so good to practice that. No, it's not easy. And I think I'm guilty of this. You always just, I end up comparing myself, which doesn't help. Like, oh, that person's further along than I am. Like, where did I go wrong? And it's like, no, you're on your own path and you've got to listen to that inner voice, right? Because actually, I've realized this is our ego voice will come in really quick and try and scream at us and give us the answer from, again, the thinking brain. But actually, the real truth, the things that light us up that are right for us, it always comes from that inner voice, that quiet voice that knows what's best for us, and we still ignore it. So
yes, and then it just shuts up until you like fall on your face enough that it will be like, so I'm still here. Are you listening? Because like for me, it's usually just like it just pops out of nowhere, and then it's gone. And if I didn't pay enough attention or I just push it aside, it will be gone. Like it doesn't care to repeat itself. It was just like, you heard me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and it comes quickly. I have that as well. Well, in astrology, my moon's in Sagittarius, so being a fire moon means so that your moon sign is your instincts, your emotional nature. So instinctively, I get things really quick. It comes like a lightning bolt. And then if it's gone, I'm like, oh, I need to get that again. And actually, for me, what helps is if I do movement or I go out for a walk or something, then the kind of inspiration or the clarity drops in again.
Mhm.
But that was a light bulb when I found out my moon sign was fire because I'm Earth, so I'm very like, almost I like structure, but then this fire is like the wild card. There's like, oh, let's go off into it, go off on an adventure, and it's very spontaneous. So,
A little bit.
there's all these aspects of us that we need to get to know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we're not just like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a Cancer, and you're like a Sagittarius. No, you Capricorn. Like, are we compatible? That's not it exactly,
No.
right? It's like I'm like this house and this thing, and that affects me. I was Cancer rising, me, and I say my moon was which is like the opposite.
Yeah, polarity. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've had like friends who were a Capricorn. We were like so different but so compatible, and I'm very used by that.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, so your ascendant is Cancer and your sun is Cancer as well. Ah, so the double water. So, well, essentially, I'd say the water element is very intuitive and it's all about feeling. To break it down, your sun is essentially your core self, it's like your ego self. So, your sun sign is how you take action in the world, like it represents your aspirations. Whereas the moon sign is that internal world. It's like your inner world, your emotional nature, how you instinctively do things. So those two are very different. So when you can have them in different elements as you've got, but that's actually a really nice balance because Cancer is the feeling realm, is the very intuitive, and then your moon in Capricorn is that earth that holds the container. So the earth is very practical and almost sees the longer picture, whereas the Cancer part of you is, more intuitive and more connected to your emotions. So, I mean, it as you'll know, it's not black and white, but some elements
Confusing.
work better. Yeah. Essentially, if you think of the element, water and earth it almost understands each other. So Capricorn and Cancer are polarities, so they are opposite each other. And it's funny because I gel with people that are Cancer. With my Capricorn sun, actually my partner's got a moon in Cancer. So he's very good at building a little nest and likes to be at home and kind of this is his sense of belonging. My moon in Sag is very different. But then my sun in Capricorn kind of likes that he has a nest and it's quite cozy. Whereas my sun in Capricorn's like very ambitious and wants to kind of be out doing things in the world. So that's kind of the difference there. But essentially, that polarity can have challenges, but they can also almost complement each other because they are very different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, and it kind of makes sense, like, to tap into different aspects when needed. Like, usually I'm like very intuitive and like feely about things, and then I can like explain, but just when my head comes in, like wrecks everything and tries to put me in this like paralysis where I just don't do anything because I'm like thinking my feelings and trying to, and sometimes my feelings will like sidetrack me or like, be a cover up for fear of something. Like, you have to take that bold step, but like, you're feeling all sorts of things, and then I think like it's warning me, but it's just actually like excitement,
Yeah.
like this discomfort before you do a big thing, but it's like protective. And so like that's when I might have my logical side come in and sometimes like calm me down or like lay out all the steps so I'm safe. Like I noticed, for instance, when I traveled, like, before the pandemic, I traveled nonstop for 8 years, lived around the world, digital nomad stuff. And so everything, like every week or so, like stuff would blow up in my face. You can't control things when you travel. Like maybe you get robbed, maybe your luggage gets lost, maybe your airplane never leaves and you're like waiting on the island and it's still in Japan. Or like I still remember I booked this hostel in London and I showed up and there was a building site just rolled. I
Wow.
booked it the day before. Like it was supposed to be there. and I had like a client meeting in 15 minutes, and I still managed to like still book a new hostel, go to get the client meeting, and like like I manage crazy things, and I noticed regardless of what happens, I always have a backup plan, even if I'm not planning it. I made it so it is always there. Like always, I can like catch myself. Whatever happens, if I get put out on the street, or if like everything's booked, or I'm double booked and they don't give that thing to me, and they were like, I could just sit here and cry, which I didn't usually do, but like then I'm like pulling myself up. I'm like, there's nobody else who's gonna like rescue me, so I could just be at the end of the world by myself, or I could just like get my stuff into line and like get what I should have to feel secure again. So I'm like more stabilized. Like I love that.
Wow. Well, yeah, I love travel and very much relate to that. And do you know what I was thinking of as you were speaking? So first of all, the Cancer as an archetype, because I love working with the archetypes because I think an image, me being very visual and working with creatives, it helps, is you almost that sense of you having resilience, like you said, things just work out. That's probably like the, without labeling it, but it could be that Capricorn part of you, right? Because Capricorn's very practical and they see that they will go beyond the hurdles, So the actual archetype of Capricorn is the mountain goat. So it will keep going up the mountain, even over the rocks and the obstacles till it gets to the top. So it will find a way. It's very resilient. And that Cancer, the archetype's the crab. So it's like there's this kind of very vulnerable, sensitive body inside, and then this hard outer shell. So, like, home is going to be important to you, that you have that sense of security, you know, but on the move. So,
That's important to me. Like that stresses me out if I don't have like that's the first thing I search out for when I come to a new place, especially if I stay longer. I need to have my comfort zones figured out. Like maybe it's not even in the place I'm staying. I don't feel like quite well in whatever stupid hostel I chose. So like I will find like a park or like a bench or like a street that I feel like this is nice. This is like my happy place now. And so like every city I return to, like in London, I have like my routine exactly in the places, and like I have my I always say like in Islington, and I like go have the specific milk tea in the specific park, and then I go after have the specific tea in this Japanese restaurant, and then at night I will walk through this area, and then I will always meet the specific street fox, and he will stare at me, I stare at him. Like I don't know if he recognizes me or just like a gazillion foxes, and they all live there, but like I have like my life.
yeah, that's great.
Lived in London.
I love it. And also that makes me think of that Capricorn part of you needs that structure, because I very much resonate with that. Although, like, I'm a mix. My moon is in Sagittarius fire. My ascendant is water. It's Pisces. So I'm very fluid in the way I move through life. But this Capricorn part of me needs that structure. I need a morning routine, or I need a kind of container for my creativity, as I am lost. I'm all over the place. So, there's different aspects to understand, and they can work together, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I still struggle with the structure because I want to blow it up, but then I crave it and I don't know how to find a middle ground, especially after my ADHD diagnosis last year. I've just been like blowing up all of the things I've been doing, and I'm like, now what?
But then I always think, myself being resistant to this, I think creatives are resistant to that structure, right? Because we want that sense of fluidity. But I now call it a container. I say, okay, just create a container for your creativity. So you have a happy medium. You've got that time where you're creative, which I'm still trying to do this for myself, by the way. It's like, this is the time you paint. And I can do anything I want in that time. But the important thing is I have a container for that painting or that writing or whatever I'm doing creatively. So I think there is a balance, because I think if we have a container, it helps us be more fluid somehow, and it gets things flowing. So there's a balance there for sure.
Like playtime.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we need it. We need it. And it's essential, isn't it? Essential to being creatives to kind of fill up our well. It's
True.
important. Yeah.
I think everybody can benefit from that because, like, I believe everybody is creative in so many different ways it can show up. It doesn't have to be art or singing, or like whatever. There's like so many ways you can even be creative with like IT and tech stuff. Like, wow, it's just different thinking, combining new impulses, like random associations. There's so many ways to do that, and I think like playtime is really important, where you just allow yourself to just be without any expectations. Like as a kid, like you just drew something, maybe you got bored in the middle, or like you colored outside of the lines, or suddenly you were like painting Play-Doh, or like was something stupid. And there was no judgment. There was no like grading it. Now everything, like I catch myself often where like this has to be like a fully formed idea before I start painting on this, or like this is too beautiful a journal. I can't just start like doodling. And like, who says that? Like, who put that in my head? I know exactly who put it in my head, but like, still, like, it is so like you catch yourself censoring yourself, but that's exactly what creativity is not about. Like, you just vomit your ideas onto your chosen form of video. It just needs to be splattered everywhere.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Do you know, I love you're saying that because um I've read, I think I've done The Artist's Way about 4 times now, and that book is gold, right? It's gold.
I only read the introduction, and I haven't I've been struggling with. I can't do a morning journal. It just does. It just I can't. So I don't know. I haven't continued reading because I already feel I can't even do the morning thing. Like I get bored after like a page, or like I start daydreaming, and then I'm just like, oh, it's still 2 pages to go. And then like I look at the grass is all I can read.
Maybe set the timer so you're just, because essentially that process for me, and actually one of my friends, a membership I'm in, she was talking about it, is that process of morning pages or whatever you want to call it, essentially you're brain dumping everything out your head. So, you're saying about that, we want to kind of contain our creativity and we want it to try, be perfect. That actually we need to be messy. And actually being messy is acknowledging all those parts of us that we want to hide and suppress, which we can't do if we're going to be creative. To put our heart on a painting or in a piece of writing, it doesn't work. So what that morning pages helps to do is just get all that crap out your head and kind of create space for that flow that eventually comes. But it's not easy. It really isn't.
No. I feel like it's, like when you make pancakes and then the first batch is always weird and ugly and like it doesn't work, and then you get one to fine, and then you need to get it out.
Yeah. 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 And actually, do you know what? This is something I'm really embracing, is I think as creatives, we have such a strong inner perfectionist. We want it to be perfect. We want to contain it. But actually, I've really been embracing it's okay to make crap art or whatever you're doing. It's okay. And that's part of the process, because that that messy art, whatever that you don't like, is leading to that piece that you love that has come from that deeper place. And actually, I've realized as an artist or a creative, I think doing shadow work is a big part of it. We have to embrace those parts that we feel shame or, "Ooh," about, because they're part of our art.
No, no, it's true. And it could also be exactly the permission that the people need, that the actual inspiration is like derived from. Like I remember, when I went to like, art museums like the National Portrait Gallery in London, you see there's this room where they only have sketches. I don't know if it was a temporary exhibition, but there was a room with like this big artist. I don't know, even if it was Picasso, but he had like these doodles, like these just like offhand. He didn't actually want them published. So like that might be an ethical thing. That's why I'm not sure. But like they were all fucking gorgeous. I was like, I wish I could just offhandly doodle something like that and make it so specific and like so easily recognizable, but like in such an offhand, careless way. And I feel like often, especially if you are struggling with perfectionism, then it's like you dismiss your talent so easily because it wasn't hard. And so you always tweak and stuff, like people still like the process. They want to see the messy side of things. That's where they relate. That's where they see you as a human and someone who can actually understand their problems to fix
100%.
them. Like you can just give everybody the shiny example, and then there will be a lot of people who will like dismiss the effort and the expertise in it because they don't understand the
Mm,
process.
mm.
Some people want to understand the process, but you're not allowing it. So they
Yeah,
can think it's just
absolutely.
replaceable with AI art, for
Yeah.
instance. And like,
No.
I can just ask AI because they have no idea of what it actually needs to connect with the art and
Mm.
artists and like whatever. And yeah, so we often do that to
Yeah.
ourselves where we're like, it's not good enough, where I have to be this expert and I have to portray this vision of what I want people to see, but you're doing yourself and others a disservice
Yeah,
by not
absolutely.
showing that messy process. Or like, when you're into like music, when you're a fan, like you love your artist so much, you want to see the messy
Yeah.
demos. Like people are like constantly clamoring over unfinished songs and we
Mm.
release that. And then the artists usually are like, I don't want that out in the world. Like that's their
Mm.
prerogative, obviously. But like I remember like, I love unfinished demos or like seeing how the song progressed to where it is now. So you can like you can get more of a feeling of them as a person, of the creative process, and also feels like a validation of like, okay, they're not perfect from the start. They don't just drop a banger and be done. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, I like wrote this in 15 minutes on like the back of like a napkin. But then some
Yeah.
people like take years and years to finish this music. And there's no right or
Absolutely. Yes. I love that. I love what you're saying. And I think 100% we need to see the rawness. We need to see that process. Like you said, that it's almost like we're showing our vulnerable side because we are human. And actually, I think the best art is created in short amounts of time. I find this. So I put off my painting a lot. It's my inner perfectionist at play. But I decided to go to an art class last week. So I need some inspiration. So I went to this beautiful little barn in the countryside. It was only me and the teacher. So me and this lady had a great time. And we were just, I was just like sketching a sunflower, just in charcoal pastels. And I was like, this is great. Like I did it really quickly. I didn't overthink it. I was chatting and I was just observing the light, dark shades. And then she's like, oh, I could do it in paint. So I got out the acrylic paints and I just did it really quickly. And actually, I love it. And I hadn't overthought it. It was just raw. It was, this is what's coming out of me. And I think often that is the best art, is if we can allow ourselves to just let that flow and let it flow out of us, whatever is going to come out. It needs
wrong.
to come out. So give ourselves permission to do that.
No, I love that. Absolutely. It's like my preferred way of drawing. I cannot stick to pieces for long. I was just like, I'm done. I'm finished. And then
Mm.
I still remember it messed me up so bad. Like in art class, I was always like the top, like I without like any effort, I would just like paint something, boom, got the A plus. Like I memorized all of the arts, like historical facts, just because I was such a geek over it. I just love everything about art and different eras and like just studying artists and like recreating and trying to see if I can do this. Can I paint in a Baroque style or in an abstract style? Like someone did all of the things. And so we were always given these projects where we had to paint something, which I still think like it should never be graded. You can create
No,
great creativity and like talent and like,
no.
I think it's awful. But like I always got the best grades, but still I think it's awful. And so like I remember I was always like sucked into hyper focus. I was just like doodling like crazy and like painting and colors whenever,
Yeah.
and I would be like done, and I would be like coming out of my face. I would be like, I did it, and everybody was still like halfway through it or whatever, and it was like, what happened? Like I didn't have done, and the teacher would be so. But would instantly come to me like, what do you need? Oh, you're ready? Yeah. And then she would nitpick. She's like, maybe you should do this and maybe you should do that to keep me busy. So she wouldn't have to like let me enjoy my piece. Like I would have not like distracted anybody, but she needed me to be busy. That was her like thing. I'm not like she didn't want to deal with me or whatever. So she would always be like, you should do this, you should do that. And I would always want to fight with her because I'm like, I don't know, I don't have any energy for this anymore. This is what I wanted. I don't want to change this and I don't want to like down it, but she would always, like for years and years do this. So like every time I make art, I always like, I need to tweak this. Like, where's that stupid teacher?
No.
I liked her, but like
No.
that was awful. Like that was
Yeah, yeah. Do you know, honestly, oh, that breaks my heart. That really does. Because, oh, I don't think people realize how much that affects us when all those
yeah,
things they say when we're younger. And honestly, if I had a pound for everyone that said I'm not creative, oh well, I'd be very rich. Because those teachers, those people we look up to, that goes into our subconscious. And so you're creating art, like, oh, it's got to be perfect. And that is not allowing that rawness to come out of you. Like she should have just left you to kind of do something else. But
exactly.
yeah.
Because I would have just doodled something else. Like I was always quiet. Like it would have never affected anybody. She could have just like ignored me. That would have been fine.
Yeah.
But like, just like, no matter what I did, she would be like, "This is great," but I'm like, here we go. Like,
Mm.
and then I just internalized it as me not being good enough or whatever, even though it was already ticking the boxes. And, like it was unnecessary entirely, but it just also fed in. Like I still remember, I don't remember really anything from kindergarten. It's like completely erased. I only remember like two things. One of them was like this one horrible woman. She like made us paint a window. No. She made us paint the Van Gogh, like that sunflowers in the
Yeah.
vase. She just gave us this picture. She was like, make that. And so I painted a vase. I painted the sunflowers, and again, I was done. And she just completely ignored the kids. She just wanted us to be occupied. She was terrible with kids. Like whoever
Mm.
made her a kindergarten teacher is horrible. But like I was just like done. So I was like, what? I'm just gonna paint the window. And it was still done. Everybody was still in it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna paint a little like sun in the window. And I was like so proud of myself. And then
Mhm.
she went around like commenting on all of the pieces. And then she saw my picture. And then she like, I don't know exactly what happened, but like she was mortally offended and by me taking charge to paint the
Mm.
window and even a sun. She never told me I was allowed to do that. Like she completely ripped me apart in front of everybody, made me cry, whatever. And then she like tore my parents apart when they picked me up. She was like livid.
Wow, that's
I was
crazy.
like, what is wrong with you? Like
Mm.
I
Mm.
needed permission to draw an extra
Mm.
window. Like, and that,
Oh,
like how that
yeah,
still affects me after
yeah.
like the
But
30 years.
it's because you're so vulnerable at that age, and like
Yes.
it, that probably, you remember that that's in there. So I think a lot of us artists struggle because we kind of internalize that as shame, like, oh, if
Mhm.
I do too much, I'll be shamed for it, which is ridiculous. You were just in the flow. And I think for many of us, like you said, if we have a natural artistic side, we can do it like that without thinking about it because it's natural, it is a talent. But then we don't see it as a talent. And I think that's what for me, my mum always said when I was growing up, "Oh, you're really good at painting. Like, how do you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just do
Yeah.
it because it was
Yeah.
just natural." And I think that's how astrology has actually helped me is like, okay, these are actually my gifts. They come naturally to me, but I don't have to try. And I think sometimes we push that down when actually it's a skill, it's a talent that,
Yeah.
maybe somebody else it would be harder for them. So
Yeah.
it's
We
yeah.
always focus on like what the weaknesses and the lack is instead of just like you have to skip. Let's focus on making that your thing. And
Mm.
then all of the other things you can compensate with working with other people, outsourcing stuff. Like, why do we always think we have to do everything ourselves to be a fully formed, acceptable human when there's like so many mediocre people doing mediocre things and that's totally fine?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a stupid illusion. Like, nobody needs you to be
Yep.
perfect in anything, but everybody has some certain gifts.
Yep.
And it's totally okay to step into that and own that and be like,
Yeah,
I didn't put much effort into it. It's
absolutely.
still valuable. I don't have to hustle to make it
Yeah.
worthwhile.
Yes, exactly. You don't have to spend 2 hours over a painting that came out of you maybe in 15 minutes. Still good, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you know, I sometimes, get, jealous of people that don't have art training because my background, I studied fashion design, and actually, I think in a lot of ways that has squashed my creativity down. And again, it's
Mm,
not to blame anyone, it's that I think teachers can project their own fears and stuff onto students, which can be very dangerous. And so you then start that internalizing that almost criticism or comments they've made. And luckily, my last year, it was good that I had a really supportive mentor. They got me through my last year. I really struggled with it. But the others, I just felt kind of really unrecognized and unseen by them. And actually, I remember this lady. So you do hundreds of designs in your sketchbook. And this one lecturer that came in for a few weeks had a session with her and she goes, "Oh, your designs are too theatrical." And I was like, but that's how I want to design. I didn't want to design commercial everyday wear. That's not how my brain works. I'm very visionary and think outside the box. I wanted to do these beautiful theatrical things, which I then did in my final year. But that still stays with me, it's still in there. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
it's too theatrical. So then you'll think you're being too much. You've got to dull it down, right? Which is it's
Just
not.
look at the runways. The stuff they have put out the past couple seasons is like wild, like
Mm,
3D printed, like ridiculous shapes, like the abstract. And it's also cyclical. It's also like, what is your art audience? Like, do you
yeah.
want it to be practical? Do you want it to be art? Like, there's like so many aspects that fashion can be. It could be everyday Zara, H&M, whatever, or it could
Mm.
be a specific clientele. It could be for artistic people. What if you designed all of the musicals? Like, who
Yeah.
tells you that?
Yeah, exactly. Do you know the
Look at
work
Starlight
of
Express. You could have been the Starlight Express of design.
exactly. Well, part of me thinks that's my long lost dream, but actually it's not a nice industry, but I
Oh, yeah.
digress. Um
I wanted to do fashion too. When I would like, that was my favorite STEM at school. I would like, I had myself like templates made of different like bodies. So I would just like trace it and put a pose on it and trace it. Put like, because I couldn't
beautiful.
keep up with my thoughts. I was like
Yeah.
churning out designs all the time to help me focus in school. And then I wanted to really do fashion and everybody talked me out of it. Like, nobody's going to hire you. It's such a terrible industry. So I studied economics,
Oh,
the
wow.
most
That's very
boring
different.
thing. It's awful. I hated it. I was like, why do I have to be sensible or stupid? And then I would just always gravitate towards it. Like I remember there was like an open day at my exchange university, like in Preston. They wanted to like get people to do like post grad. And I just instantly drifted to the fashion department. I didn't even know they had it. And I was like,
Mm,
fashion people, oh my God. And I just like had the most amazing conversation with like the director or whatever. And she was like giving me all of these slides. She's like, yeah, you can finish your studies. You can come from here's like stipends and these things and that things. And I told myself, like, yeah, after I finished my serious like degree, I would like do the fashion. Like I never did that. It was like I could have
mm,
like quit and then done that
mm,
instead, but I would have never dared to at that point. And then when
mm,
I couldn't get a job, and so like I started, I went to Australia to like reset my life. Like the first thing I saw when I was trying to look for jobs, which I never got, ironically again, was like there was this gigantic flyer of like Melbourne Spring Fashion Week. And I was like, oh,
mm.
I didn't know like a Portal B like me could go to a fashion week. And I just like bought a ticket and I was up all
Wow.
the events all the time, everywhere. I got invited to stuff, I got free stuff, like I got and met people.
Amazing.
And I was this grimy backpacker, right? And I was like, I'm at a fashion week. Oh my God, look at me. And and then like 3 years ago, I actually was like, you know what, I want to go to a fashion week again, but like, who am I? I'm not in the industry, but I love like keeping up with fashion. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love giving presentations at university for no reason about the history of fashion and how it's like connected to
Mm,
sociology, history, politics,
mm.
and all of that. It's so complex. It's not just vanity. So
Absolutely.
like, I love all of the things. And then I was like, what if I just tried getting into Fashion Week, like being invited? And so I sent a gazillion emails out and I got invited to actual
Oh,
fashion shows in
wow.
New York. And I was
I
a
love it.
photographer. And I just was the
Amazing.
most fashionable photographer because I thought like if you photograph fashion, you have to look good. No, everybody was like in black, a t-shirt and a jeans. And I was
Oh.
there in full pink with a pretty hat and my camera like in the middle of the runway. Everybody was staring at me. I was like, I'm not the exhibition, please.
I love that. I love it. It's great. That just shows like there is a lot of do you know, there is a dark side to that world that I've
Yeah.
experienced, like in
Oh,
doing internships for
I'm
designers,
sure.
but that's a whole other thing. But
And sustainability.
oh, there's also the beauty and the artistry that comes from that world, and that's what still fascinates me because it is thinking outside the world and outside the box. And the one of the designers, I don't know if you know her, Iris van Herpen,
Yeah.
she's yeah, right. That she was my inspiration for my final degree work. She is one of just avant-garde, like wearable art. To me, that is amazing fashion. It's
Yeah.
so
But
great.
like cool people like Iris Apfel, I didn't say it in English. She's like such a German name, so I'm confused. You know, Iris Apfel,
Sounds
this
familiar.
eccentric elderly lady with like all the patterns, all the colors, all the jewelry together. And she lives like in the most maximalist home in New York. She's of course a New Yorker. And she's just
Love it.
like so into fashion, she doesn't give a F at all. She's just like, I wear everything all the time. Like, screw that Chanel quote where like, oh, yeah, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and take one item off and then you're ready to go. She's like, putting it on, putting it on. And she's just so amazing. And I love to see more of that boldness in fashion because,
Yeah.
yeah, you see stuff on the runway, which you're like, nobody could ever wear that. Or like when models stumble over this stupid footwear they put them on, like, you know, that's ridiculous when you make people so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It's actually a hazard.
Yeah.
But I would like that to be more accessible or like even to be represented. Because like even if I'm like I live in Germany, and so if you wear anything that's not just skin and autumn colors, like you know, maybe a red jacket that's like for all weather situations. You could go on a hike, you can go to a meeting, nobody knows. That's the look with jeans, t-shirt jeans, and that's it. And
Yeah.
always hiking shoes, like sensible hiking shoes. That's the look. And so I don't do that. Like I wear comfortable clothes, but they're all the colors. I wear hats, I wear big coats, I wear
Yeah.
scarves and statement pieces, and people would openly gawk at me and very judgy stares and
Wow.
glances. They would it's so annoying, like especially if you go to countrysides or smaller cities, like in Berlin, nobody actually cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
But outside of that, especially here where I live, very conservative, people would stop on the street when I wear a hat. I was like, have you never seen a hat? That's a problem. You know, it's so,
Crazy.
and I don't even see it anymore. But like, if I walk with friends, they would always comment, like, do you know these people? Why do you guys stare at you? Sometimes even dogs try to attack me when I'm just standing around. They would
Ah,
just like charge at me, and then the
crazy.
owners wouldn't do anything. They would just stare at me holding the dog. But who's like, pulling on the leash, and I'm like, what did I do? Please don't attack me. Oh my god, I'm
Uh,
scared. And I don't know what it is
mm,
because I'm not provocative. I'm not like offensive. Like it is
mm.
just colors and different styles, and that I don't know if it like inspires people maybe because I wish
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
people like that growing up because I would have been like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's a, you wear pink and like bold. Like I would have loved that. So I
Yeah.
always try to be like, try to reframe it now that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm like offending people with my mere presence, but maybe I'm also like shaking their world in a good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
That they could be like, yes, I don't have to wear black.
You probably are. I love that. I,
I,
I I love it. It sounds like you're expressing your inner world on the outside, which is
yes.
what fashion is all about. It is
Yeah.
self-expression, right? And
Yeah.
I think we again want to be so accepted and liked in this world that we want to look like everyone else. Everyone wants to be like the sheep, like the white sheep, but actually it's okay to be the black sheep and look different and be
Yes.
bold, and why not? I mean, bright clothes make me happy as well, 100%. Like I love statement jewelry and interesting things like that. So yeah, you're
Mhm.
probably maybe showing them where they're not expressing themselves, everything's a mirror. So
Yeah, that's
gotta
true.
do it.
Yeah. No. Yeah, and I learned to be more comfortable too, because I used to be like so put off by like this attention. Like I don't do it for attention; I do it for
Mm,
myself,
right.
and that is sometimes like difficult for people to see or like. I don't. Why do I have to explain this? Like it's just like, why do you make
Yeah.
me? It's not about you. You get
Yeah.
it. And then I also like found it so fascinating when I traveled. I remember like the first couple cities I went to in Melbourne and in Australia. I had noticed they
Mm,
had a sort of uniform look to them. Like you could always tell these people are probably like from Melbourne, from Sydney, or like Hong Kong, where, or like even in Germany, we're like, oh yeah, they're definitely from Munich, they're definitely from Berlin. Like there's all of these
Yeah.
subtle things that you have like a subculture
Mm.
that you naturally adopt over time, like an accent or some sort of like habits or expectations. And it's really interesting when you have this outside perspective and you travel wildly in and out. Like my entire wardrobe is just not really anything anymore.
But I love
So
that. You put your unique spin on it. And probably,
yeah.
I think traveling, I'm a massive traveler too. I think it does influence your perspective of yourself and the world. And
Yes.
so you kind of found your style. And I think it took me a long time to morph out of black, to be honest, when I used to live in London. That's what I had to wear working fashion retail. So just black. And I was just so used to that I just started wearing black all the time. I'm like, no, I don't want to wear black. I don't mind black, but there's colors and there's patterns and there's prints.
Yeah,
So it's finding you, being able to express
exactly.
ourselves on the outside. Yeah, it's important.
Is important, and it's also like soul nourishing. It's like also like a little source of rebellion where you can be like even if you just start with like, I don't know, cheeky underwear or whatever, if you're like not
Yeah.
quite comfortable. Or like I loved learning when I was studying in England. Actually, I loved learning about different cultural like traditions. For instance, New Year's Eve. Like I learned that apparently in Italy for New Year's Eve people wear red underwear, and that's good
Oh.
luck. And I was like, oh, that's
Mm.
interesting. Like, no matter what you wear, like, they have like this thing that gives them some sort of like superstition and belief or like whatever. And I'm like, oh, how
Mm.
cool is it? Like,
Love that.
if you just
Yeah.
like consciously wear something for yourself, even if you have to wear like black for your work, but you could like, I could wear like the most cute, like, corset underneath or
Yeah.
whatever, just like your cheeky little secret. Or it could be like, yeah, it could be granny panties for all you care. Like, you don't have to be beautiful, but you do it for
Yes.
yourself, you
Absolutely.
know?
It's all if it makes you feel good. For me, I realize
Yeah.
I love kind of chunky jewelry or things like, this is a dragonfly because it kind of
Mhm.
feels like I don't know, like a talisman, or it feels like something protects
Yes.
you, that I am tapped into nature or some other kind of culture. Like I have this
Hmm.
big silver chunky necklace and it feels like I'm like an Amazonian woman and I'm like morphing into this archetype. So
Hmm.
it's powerful what you wear. It
Yeah.
can support you in your life, I think, and give you confidence. Yeah.
And another layer it gives me, like, for me, it's like one of my favorite souvenirs. Like when I travel, you can buy like stupid keychains or magnets or whatever or food. But I like to, if I find something to wear that I really like, I will like splurge on that and then I will like treasure it forever. So like
Mm.
to a point it came like where I was like people asking me, oh, this is cute. Where is it from? I would be like Tokyo, New York, Paris. And then people would think I'm pretentious, but like for me, it was like this wearable keepsake, and it brought back memories when I put it on. When I
Love
looked at
that.
it, it would put me in a certain
Mm.
mindset. You
Mm.
know, it was very emotional and like very, um, yeah, like such an important keepsake for me that I could like attach something to. Like I remember like one time in Thailand, I bought this, like I even haggled over this orange purse. It was just this round. There's nothing that can fit in there. It's super stupid. I needed it. It was cute. It looked like an orange. Had a little like flap. There was a leaf on it.
Love
And
it.
wore it every single day because I was like, this was the first time I really haggled for something and I got a
Mm.
really good price and it didn't die of anxiety, and it like made me happy. Like I put like a
Yeah.
tissue in there or something, nothing fit in there, but people would comment on it and I would be like, that is such a
I love
stupid
that.
purse, but I love it.
Because it makes you happy, right? That's what it's
Yeah,
about. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love prints. I've got these printed trousers on now, but like, yeah, it is that self-expression piece. And I think, yeah, we need to kind of wear our inner world on the outside more and not kind of look for external validation from other people. If it makes you happy and it brings you joy, wear it. Who
Mhm.
cares?
Exactly. And
No.
if there's people coming at you and they will give you their stupid opinion, like that it's not nice, then you at least know, stay away from those people. They're like party poopers.
Yeah. They're
Like it's
addictive,
like a
isn't it?
repellent charm as well. You would be
Yeah,
like, who will
exactly.
respond to this? Like it's a little bait. Like, are you cool or are you like not cool? Like, okay.
Who wants to be vanilla, right? I'm really learning that. And actually, some of the best finds I found are in like charity shops in London. It's great. Like, I love it. I found like really good designer pieces that are unique or like from a few seasons ago. And some people are like, oh, where'd you get that? Like, charity shop. And I love it because I don't want to wear like what everyone else is wearing. That's why
Right.
those shops are the best places because otherwise everything is commercial shops and you just look the same as everyone. Why be the same in a world where you're meant to be unique? That's what I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can just, that's how you also create your style. You don't just have style. It is something you curate over time that is sort of like
Mm.
your trademark. And it doesn't even change that much. I feel like, when I started
Yeah.
ignoring trends and just bought what I felt like was really cute and matched my stuff, then
Mm.
I'd be like, yeah, this is like my thing. And I have clothes. Like I still confuse people that I have clothes from when I was 18, 36 now. But like
Mm.
I still have stuff. Yeah, I fit in that. But also like there's like when I buy things, it needs to be something that I will like a long time. I don't just want to like get into Primark and buy all of the things. I even have Primark
Yeah.
stuff that is like 10 years old
Yeah.
and still okay. And people, I was like, yeah, you should go at Primark. And it's true. Like, fast fashion shouldn't be something you endorse. But like, if I
Mm.
do buy fast fashion, I buy it so it will last. I look at the
Mm.
quality. I look at the style, if it's basic enough, all of the things. And I'm like, I make it my own style. So it
Mm.
looks maybe more expensive or more extravagant the way you pair it with things. Then, you experiment with it. Sometimes it just looks super stupid. And sometimes I still go out like that. I was like, yeah, I just felt wearing striped jeans with like plaid, like
Yeah.
flannel. I don't know. Like I just wanted to wear it. Like a kid, you're like, I just want to wear a princess
Yeah.
dress and my superstar helmet. Whatever. Like you escape with a
Absolutely.
princess dress. You just do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
But I think it does. I think as well, really clothes do have a power to tap you into a particular energy or an archetype that you
Yes.
want to embody.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a big topic to explore, but it's something that if something makes you feel powerful, like that Amazonian necklace that I have that makes me feel Amazonian,
Mhm.
that's when I'm like fierce and want to embody this
Yeah.
fiery side of me, right? And it makes you feel better in the work you do and attracting what you want. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big world out there. You've gotta go find what works for you, what you feel good in.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
guess it goes back to being in touch with yourself and like honest with yourself. But like, do you like this because you're supposed to like it? Or do you like this despite what people tell you? Or
Yeah.
do you like it in spite of them? Like, is that even also authentic? You could just do it because, like when you're in your teenage and you just want to like piss off your parents, so you wear something you don't actually like, but it makes them angry.
Yeah.
You need to find that balance where it's just really you.
Yeah, exactly, the rebellion. I remember
Yeah.
when I was little, I mean, I love jazzy prints now, but even remember I had these like real hippie kind of, those like fitted flare trousers that were like elasticated and just like pink, purple, lilac, all the colors. And that
Yeah.
was the kind of thing I absolutely loved. And I'm like, oh, it was there. The vibrant colors were there when I was a kid. So sometimes we kind of lose ourselves in life, but if you look back to what you were drawn to naturally as a kid, that always gives you a clue, I think. There's wisdom in that, you
It's
know?
true. And even today, you could also ask your inner child, like, what would you want to wear today?
Yeah.
Please don't say princess breast, but like whatever you want to say. You know?
Yes,
So,
100%. Yeah. And I think in general, as a creative, from that book, The Artist's Way, I highly recommend everyone reads it. But she talks about, like you were saying about playtime, is actually going on play dates with your inner child because that unlocks inspiration and that curiosity is where our joy lies. And often we get too sucked into the whole adulting thing and like, I have to dress like this because I'm an adult. But like, if you want to wear the cool hippie pants, wear the cool hippie pants. They bring you joy. That's going to actually help your creative process, I think, because you're more inspired and more connected to who you are at your core. So you've got to listen to that
I
voice of
agree.
curiosity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I sometimes do like these, like, I always try to like schedule them in, but then I never stick with that. But like when I do have like playtime, then I just put all the things out in front of me. Like there's crayons, there's like tempera, there's
Mm.
watercolors, there's pencils and whatever. And then I'm just like, so what do we want to do? Like me and my partner, like, so what is it you want to do? And then
Love
I just
that.
like pick something, and then maybe if I lose interest, I'll do something else. But like it's all there, so I don't be like, oh, no, I have to go get it. You
Yes.
know, no, it's just like there. Whatever. It can be messy. It's all prepared. Like
Yeah.
I can wear my messy shirt if I'm like afraid of my clothes or whatever. You know, as an adult, you can take the
Mm.
precautions, and
Mm.
then you can go wild in that premise.
Yes, I love that. I tell everyone because she calls it artist dates in the book, but I call them play dates.
Yeah.
Um, it's just write a list of like, 20 things you love to do. And it could be like you say, painting, drawing, that kind of thing. Or it could be like taking yourself out on a walk in nature somewhere new or reading a book, like all the things that bring you joy,
Hmm.
get them down on a list and like schedule them in every week because
Right.
having that time with yourself is so precious as an artist. We need it. We need it for that inspiration and that flow.
True. And I
Yeah.
even started like writing that list and then chopping it up and putting in like a jar. So like, pulling when
Ah,
I'm like indecisive, I'm just like pulling
yeah.
out. So what I'm gonna do, okay. And then you like you
That's
go
a good
like, oh, I actually
idea.
don't want to do it. And then you just pick again, whatever. Like, but like sometimes it helps you to be like, oh, there's all of these things I could be doing. You just
Yeah.
like let me decide, like just like Russian
Yeah.
roulette style.
That's great because then you don't
Yeah.
get to the overthinking. You're like, the
Yeah.
universe could decide for me. What am I gonna do?
Right. Yeah, and it's like a
But
challenge. You could even put a timer there if you want, like how much of a horse can you draw in 5 minutes or whatever.
I love that. That's a
Or
great
like make it like, or then you're only allowed to like draw from the back. Like you have to start with like the back of like you can set yourself stupid challenges if you're like blocked creatively. So like
Mhm.
or like you have to draw upside down with your left hand. Like, you know, sometimes
That's
my
good.
brain need to shake it up, like so to
Yeah.
make it interesting again, you know, like me chasing
Yeah.
the dopamine.
Yes, 100%, I relate to that. Yeah, it's just like I'm in this cycle. I notice a procrastination around painting.
Mm-hmm.
I say I
Yeah.
want to paint more, but I don't actually make the time, or I distract myself by reading because I love reading. So I'll go and read a book instead of actually doing something creative. But it is my intention to just make even 10 minutes every day to just do something, even if it's crap art. It's just having that container and that habit of doing it, isn't it? So
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, it's true. It's a process too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
it is.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, we touched on so many different topics: astrology, fashion, playtime. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I feel they're all connected.
They are. Everything is connected. I always think that like nothing is just in isolation. It's just all like that. Is there
Absolutely.
anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention?
I guess to just reaffirm if anyone's, curious about astrology and understanding themselves at that deeper level, because you said, it is a complex topic, I would just say to start exploring the elements of your sun, moon, and rising sign, right? But obviously, it's good to look at your chart as a whole. But if you're not like drawn yet to having an astrology reading or whatever, and you want to explore it yourself, just understand the elements because when you understand the elements and how they play out in your life and the archetypes, it just gives you a deeper sense of self-acceptance and self-confidence. So I would just say just start there and don't overcomplicate it. Start small and just explore it and be curious. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So again, the bigger picture approach where you just start in a general sense, and then you can always go down the rabbit hole or like, you know,
Yeah.
work with someone like you to get the chart reading and to
Yeah.
get regular updates on things. So where can people find you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, where can people see what you're up to and what the stars say?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. Oh gosh, I forgot. I've just changed my handle, but
Oh,
I
I'll put it down below. Yeah.
yeah, Instagram or Facebook as well, and also I've got a YouTube channel where I share fortnightly new and full moon forecasts if you want to know what's happening collectively and how it impacts you. So yeah,
Cool. I
Those
love
are the main
that.
parts. Yeah.
Any parting words you want to share?
Oh, I really just think because I'm big on following your curiosity. And I think in all of this, for me, I'm multifaceted. I love creativity and I loved astrology, and I never got how they kind of connected. And actually, those are two parts of my business that have kind of come together. But I just think, in a creative sense, follow your curiosity. Like, you're drawn to uh a painting for a reason, or you're drawn to wanting to write a novel for a reason. Like, just let yourself be curious and go there, because that's where that real rawness and that real vitality will come through your art and through your creativity. So just, yeah, listen to your curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't overthink it. Don't question. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that. And it
Yeah,
also gives you permission to just drift in and out of things and try different things. Again, that's where creativity comes
yeah,
in with like mixed media.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Don't get too linear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm
Exactly.
learning.
Good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and your insights on all the topics.
Oh, it's been fun. Thank you for having me. And it's been fun just talking about all these different topics. That, yeah, hopefully inspires people.
Fully. Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yes, do.
And thank you. So, well, I wish you a fabulous day.
Thank you, Anne-Marie, and you too. And I'm sure we'll connect soon.
Yes. Right. Bye.
Bye.
We did it.
Yeah, that was good. Wow.
Yeah, that
I
was
love
fun.
it. I love free flow conversations. I think they're the
Me
best,
too.
aren't they? Just,
I agree.
it's
I
makes
had
me
a coach once. She wasn't good for me, but like she was like, oh, because I wanted to start interviews like that, because like they're the most important things for me to reflect on things.
yes,
Because like I express myself, like I'm an external like processor. Like I'm
yeah.
always in my head thinking about everything, but like as soon as I speak it out, and I'm like, oh no, or like, interesting. And then when I hear people's reactions, it's usually just like, that's not what I meant, like when I ask people for advice, and I always know exactly what I don't want to hear, because that's usually what people tell me. Now I'm like, thank you, but no. And
Yeah,
I never
right.
understood why that is. And so I wanted to do these interviews.
Interesting.
Like, that's when I met like people along my travels, like random strangers, was like offhand conversations with like no goal or whatever. And those were the most profound for me. And
Mm,
I never like captured them. So I was like, what if I could do this? Like,
nice.
talk to cool people, but then also save it in case I wanted to replay it or like inspire
Yeah,
other people, because I don't know what
I
they
love
might find
that.
important.
Yeah,
And so,
it's
yeah, and she
great.
was just like, you only have to have set questions. You can't, like, she was just
No.
like, 5 questions max. I was like, what the hell? They're the
But
most
that
boring
doesn't work.
questions.
That doesn't work if you're with that
Yeah,
creative brain, right? It kind of
I
shuts
know.
down that free flow, which I
Yeah.
find that hard. Yeah, no, it's
I
best
found
way.
it so hard. It wasn't as exciting, and I wasn't into it as much. And then I had to like cut them off when it started getting interesting. And I was
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? Like, why am I listening to this woman who has never done a podcast of sorts at all? Like, why am I
Oh,
listening to
that's
her?
tricky then, because she doesn't know what it's like, right? It's hard to
No,
teach
she was
how
a
to
very
experience.
logical person. She's like systems, and you just follow through every
Okay.
single day. She was like the worst for an ADHD person, full stop.
Oh
And she
gosh.
was just like, I have the system, and if you follow it, then you'll be successful. If you don't, then it's
Oh
your
dear.
fault. She was just
Yeah.
like black or white. And I was like, I don't want to do any of the homework, and none of it. And she's like, yeah, then I'm gonna fail. It's your fault. I'm like, I didn't pay you to like make me feel
Yeah.
bad.
That's really tricky. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I told you I'm still waiting for a diagnosis actually, and anyway, I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm realizing more and more that I need mentors that are like, hold a safe space for me, but that are
Yes.
fluid in that process. I
Yeah.
need sort of somebody that's adaptable instead of some
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
systematic approach because it's just I'm not going to follow it. I'm going to go off on a tangent and go elsewhere
Yes.
and be like, oh, why didn't you do the homework? And I
Right.
went off and followed my curiosity, which is over there, actually, you know? So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
okay to go off on tangents, but I mean, I'm curious, do you have somebody like if you were to have a mentor again, would you have somebody that's got like that is neurodivergent? Because they would understand you then.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, until I like figure out how I work the best, I need somebody who is like completely down with all the things, but who's already got enough experience with neurodivergence that they know when I sidetrack too much,
Yeah,
and they could be like like gently steering
definitely.
me back instead of like
Yeah.
scolding me and like making me
Yeah.
fall in line. Like I want people like like this grandma energy where they'd be like,
Yes.
"Oh, you're so cute! Like come over here, let's just drink some water, please, okay? Let's
Yeah.
clean you up real quick, you know, like where you don't feel stupid for doing
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
but
100%.
they've
Mm.
got your back, like a silent force, like there to
Yeah.
protect you. But like like that guidance that you don't get as a child when you grow up with ADHD,
Yeah.
support, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. Because like I have to do that for myself, but also like calming myself down while also figuring out what I do. Like it's so much all the time, all at once. That
I
I
get you.
yeah, so like it feels overwhelming, and then that keeps me stuck because I want to be like gentle, but then I'm like too
Yeah.
lenient where I
Yeah.
don't kick myself in the butt. And then
Yeah.
I'm just like in my fields all the time, and then I get nothing done. And then I'm like getting more angry or frustrated because like I don't get money. And then I'm like panicking and being in survival mode. So I need to calm
Yeah.
myself more. And then it just like spirals into like too, like gentle parenting to a fault
Yeah.
territory where you're like, there needs to be some firmness.
There's a balance.
It's
Yeah.
overcompensating because like I always had like the firmness, like the strict you need to do this, like this is
Mm.
like the timetable. And I worked really well on that growing up. Like I worked well on people telling me what to do, so I didn't have to think about it. But like telling me in a way that didn't trigger my like PDA, where I would be like, I hate you, I will not do the thing, even though I want it, but you told me to,
Yeah.
I will not do it. So like this fine line that I find difficult even to walk with myself. As soon as I want to do things and I kind of make myself do things, I will not want to like I will not do it. And I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
is so
It's frustrating.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a thing of or just me or being with this kind of brain is like I realize like I have this inner rebellion. Like I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna do it, and
PDA.
then like I go off. Yeah, maybe it's that, and then I've got a tangent and do something completely different, and I'm like,
But
my
that's
energy's not in
normal.
it. I can't force myself to
It's
do
a
it.
side quest.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a side
tangents are
quest.
sometimes good. I'm like, I've got a
Yeah.
big tangent leads to something.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it makes me do like stuff that I've been procrastinating because
Yeah,
I would rather do that than the actual thing. And so, like, I get a lot of stuff
yeah,
done when I need to do something else. Like, sometimes I can use that, and sometimes it's tricky to balance that. But some days I would like drip in and out of tasks. I find it so ironic because people are like, you need to do a little thing every single day. But then when you do it in your neurodivergent way, when you like literally do like a little thing, then you do another little thing, and then
yeah,
another little thing, people are like, you need to stop. I need to focus on one
yeah,
thing. I'm like, what
yeah.
is it gonna be? Makes no
But
sense. If I
it's
have
still
to sit
getting
here,
yeah. You're
it
still
takes
getting it
five
done.
hours.
You still
Yeah,
get
it's still
do you know,
getting done.
that's what I found recently is I've been doing this whole put the 20-minute timer on
Yeah,
and start a task and then, like, take a break and come back, and I'm much more
yeah,
productive to do
yeah,
a task that I'll procrastinate on for weeks. I'm like, "Just start the thing," and I just get so much done in that hyper focus zone. But sometimes I'm
yeah,
not in that hyper focus zone, so then it's, like, just not very productive at all. But it's
yeah.
that
That's
balance.
the thing.
It's
Yeah,
tricky. I kind of started asking myself, "What is my energy available for?" Rather than trying to plan what I'm doing. It's like, "What do I feel
yeah.
excites me right now?" And just do that. But
Hmm. Yeah,
except the stuff I have to do, but it's yeah, it's
yeah. Like
ongoing.
taxes. Still have to do my
Yeah.
taxes.
Oh no, God. I don't like stuff like that. So mundane.
Yes.
I don't want to adult.
Exactly. I wish I had like a clone that would be super
Yeah,
nerd and would do all the things, like a logical twin. That's
yeah.
great.
Yep. I'm so not logical. God. I need that logic. Anyway. Thank you. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was cool. And yeah, your episode will be out next week.
Yeah, but I love it. I love the podcast. I must admit, I'd love to listen to more of your episodes because I think it's great. It's fun. It's free flow, and that's how it works well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it just took me so long to actually allow myself to do it because, like, I for
yeah.
over a year I wanted to do the podcast, and then I just procrastinated until somebody took my name, and I was like, damn, I waited too long. Somebody grabbed my name, and then I had to redo everything because I already had all the promo and stuff like that. So I had to and then I just launched it within a day. I was like, nobody's going to steal the other
I
name.
love it. Spontaneous. But also, have you read that? Reminds me of the book, what's it, Big Magic? Have you read that by Elizabeth
I love
Gilbert?
that book.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like if the idea comes to you, it's meant to be birthed through you. And if you don't act on it, it goes to somebody else.
Yes.
But you can put your unique spin on it because it's going to be unique because there's only one of you. So,
exactly. No, I love that book because it makes so much sense. Like, I had that so often where like this idea would come nag me. And I'm like, I don't have time. And then somebody says the exact same thing out loud and they get like praise. And I'm like, how did you get this from my brain?
Yeah.
I would be like, what?
But I think also the universe is trying to guide us. I noticed that if I have like an idea that's, again, not coming from my ego, but it's bubbling up from, like, say, that inner voice, and it feels really exciting, I let it percolate, and then I'm like, oh, now is the right time to put it out there. And it always goes down better than if you do the thing that your ego says to do because you think you should. It never goes down well.
No, that's absolutely right. And it's just fascinating how she was like, it's almost like they're sentient beings of sort. Like they will get attached to whoever's best, and then they will want to be birthed some way or another. It's like this gigantic pool of creativity that everybody can tap into, and some of it is a fit and some of it isn't. But it's like it never goes away. It just might not be available to you anymore because you messed up the vibe.
Divine timing as well, isn't it? Like I have these things that I'm doing now, these soul portraits. So I essentially take somebody's natal chart and that inspires the painting, and it's like an archetypal painting of their energy and their core, their unique essence. But that idea came to me. Yeah, I love it. That idea came in like 2016 and I did a couple of them. And I'd sort of tested it out on somebody that was mentoring me at the time, and then just sort of I lost my confidence with it because I did one where somebody was like, I don't like my nose in it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And all that self-doubt squashed that out of me. And it's taken me, oh my God, so long, well, till this year to be like, I'm going to offer them again. That was years ago. And I'm like, now I'm ready, but maybe it wasn't ready to be birthed properly back then. So it is now. Bizarre. Yeah.
That's how I feel about my photography too. Like, you've seen the collages.
Yeah.
I always tell them, I'm like, it's just the plainest photo shoot. You're like, you in front of a white wall, maybe just a white bed sheet. And then I'm like, I can't tell you what it's going to be. I don't know. Like I'm sitting there with me in Photoshop and then I go like, whatever happens, happens. And I just like go almost like manic where I'm like, let's put on this butterfly. It's terrible. Let's put on this flower. It's terrible. And I like redesign it. And then like someday I would just like have this idea and then like I go and do everything and it just makes sense. But I can't control any of that. And I had a couple of the women I worked with. Some of them were just like, oh, I don't like my face today. Like I like the thought, but like, can you please not publish it? And I was like, I spent 5 hours on this. This is how I see you.
Yeah, exactly.
And
but they have
don't
to
like
trust,
your face,
they have to trust you, whether you're painting or photographing somebody. It's like you've got to trust the artist, right? Because we're seeing them from a different perspective, and you see yourself from like a more negative, insecure way. So
I put it in the contract now. I was like, you don't get to say this is my art, and that feels weird to me.
But that's great that you I haven't thought about that. It's probably quite makes sense. You've got a contract, so I don't. Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, no, I learned that because a couple of them were like learning lessons. Like one of them tried to sneak in a brand deal. Another one was just trying to like block all of the stuff I created. And I was like, so what's the point of you coming on my project, telling me how you want things, and then saying I can't publish anything? Like,
You
That's
can't control
awful.
it. No, you can't
Yeah.
control that process.
No,
Tricky.
exactly. But like it made me feel so vulnerable and so rejected because I was like, the entire process is sure, it's just for me to play around with and not having to use myself all the time. But it's also like in this photo shoot itself, it's like this fun, playful energy where I'm just like
Mm,
making them do ridiculous things or say ridiculous things so they can loosen down their guard and
I
I can
love
take
that.
candid
Yeah,
photos
yeah.
and like want them to feel beautiful and just like turn off the head. I would just like make up stupid stories where I'm like currently I'm
Mm.
like, oh, you're a queen, you're ruling over your kingdom, and today is like chocolate day, so you're announcing the new chocolate.
I love
Like
that.
stupid shit. I just like talk and talk, and then they would like be confused, and then I would laugh, like, yes, great photo. And then I want to make a photo collage that feels how they feel to me in that moment, like the beauty of the thing. And so like
That's
that's how I
amazing.
see
Love
them.
it.
And then when they go like, "Oh, I don't like it," and it feels like you're rejecting me and how I like
Yeah.
you, like you're
But
rejecting my
it's
feelings for you in a way, you
so
know?
unique, and I love that it sounds like
Yeah,
you're capturing that spontaneity in the moment, and actually
yeah,
they just have to trust that you're gonna
yeah,
perceive whatever you see in them.
yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky because they're seeing almost their blind spots, but we're always our worst critics, so
Exactly. And that's
love.
not. I don't do that psychological part. Like I can like cheer you on and like make you feel beautiful, but if you have a problem with your face, I can't do anything about that. I
Right,
had to learn that too. Like that's still a hard
exactly.
lesson. Like two
Yeah.
months ago, I took photos for my best friend's family. Like I was like she made me come to her, like travel 4 hours to get to her, and then they would postpone it every day because they
Oh,
actually kind of didn't want to do it. They just wanted photos, but they didn't want to
right.
do anything. I was like, "You're wasting my time."
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
and then they were like, "Yeah, maybe tomorrow." I'm like, "Tomorrow's gonna rain. Yeah, what do you want me to do?" It was horrible. And then the
Oh,
husband was the worst. He was like the big baby, and then the kids were like, "Oh my god, I don't want to do it either." I hyped the kids up the entire week. He did shit, and then he didn't want to change into a normal shirt. I was like, "Everybody wears blue," and he was like, "Oh, that's my good shirt." I'm like, "Yes, you wear the good shirt. No complaints." He's like, "But it's like I don't care.
oh,
It's a photo for you. You wear the good shirt.
yeah,
You shut up. You do the
exactly.
photo."
Yeah.
And then he was complete. Like I had so much trouble getting him to do anything or just smile. Like he was like annoyed at the like everything. It was like you're driving this entire photo shoot, and I heard that from so many people that usually the men sabotage the entire thing.
Ah,
That
right.
it's usually best if it's just the kids or just the
Yeah.
kids or whatever. And I was like, I can confirm he was a pain in the ass. The kids were easy compared to him. And then I overheard them when I did all of the photos, and I was so proud of how they looked even though he was
Mm.
miserable, like I still managed something. Like I don't know how I made it work.
Mm.
Um, and he would like I overheard them complain. He was like, "Oh, I look weird in this and this and this," and I was just standing like in the next room, being like, "Yes, because you refused to cooperate. You made it everybody's horrible day, and I can't.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
cool.
not your problem, but like,
No,
that
no,
that
he's
also hurt
projected it
me. Yeah, he
onto you.
projected."
Yeah,
And he didn't, I can't work miracles. If you give me
no,
nothing, you get nothing.
yeah,
And also, I was like, and then afterwards, like the sun came out. It was the most gorgeous sunset. And I went to my friend. I'm like, so you take the kids and go outside, no questions asked, and leave the men. Like, and we snuck
yeah.
outside the most candid photo shoot, like the
Wow,
kids,
yeah.
like face to face, like nose kissing and like hugging and playing
Oh,
the swing. And I got the most beautiful backlit with like a hazy look
lovely.
and like the hugs and like and then
Oh,
we showed that to him, and he was so jealous. And I was like, "You shut up. You don't." He didn't even pay me for this. He didn't see the point of having photos.
that's really cool. That's not
And
cool.
I was
That's
like, "You're
no.
not my customer. You get no say in this at all." And also, like, how are you my friend? You're like discrediting my
Yeah,
business. Like,
yeah.
what's wrong with you?
That's not cool. That's really not.
Oh,
It sounds like he's projecting shit onto you, and
yeah,
actually,
exactly.
it sounds like you're kind of I or your the people you love to work with are those that are spontaneous and that are willing to play and trust your
Yes.
kind of guidance in the moment. Like that's
Yeah,
they're the best
exactly. I
kind of
want people who are just
yeah.
ready to like be open
Yeah.
to the process and who value photography and also want to have fun and like women.
Yeah.
Just like women.
He probably would have been like that with anyone. Like I know I've had
Yes.
nightmare clients. Well, those experiences with painting, but I had a lady that She was like, I was doing basically a zodiac course with the archetypes, but like using intuitive art with it so they could embody it in art. Because I'm like, it's such a great tool to understand things. And then she like waited till week 5 to say, I don't understand what you're teaching. And I'm like, but I've already said, astrology is not black and white. Art is not
Yeah.
black and white. This is exploration. Like,
Yeah.
this is following what comes out. It's not black and white. I'm not here to interpret it for you. And then she waited till that point to tell me. And I thought, at that point, I was like, I know, I don't want to work with people that are rigid, that are black and white, that want
Yes.
this logical kind of explanation. That is not what I'm about whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah,
big hassle
exactly.
sometimes, but I've got to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's why authenticity is so important, so people know exactly what you will not do. Like what it
Exactly.
will be like. If you don't like fun and quirky, go F off. Like, what are you
That's
doing with
that
me?
100%.
You know, if
It's
you
not
want the
that simple.
technical broke photographer, go to like there's so many.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
Anyway,
absolutely.
I'm gonna have to make a move, but it was lovely to. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
lovely to. It's really fun.
Thank you. That was fun. Yeah, for sure. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I love these conversations, creative conversations. If you
Yeah.
get to the Artist Way, let me know
Awesome.
because I'm pondering starting it again actually because it's such a great
Well,
book.
you should start it with me then, because I still only have the introduction. You don't need to read
Well,
that.
do you know, this is the thing. One of the ideas that's percolating for me is to just run it again because I actually used to run it as like as a course, as a
Yeah.
container. So I might potentially start that at some point because I
But
think
do
that.
you think that's holding you back? Like you can also do like flip a page, pick something, or like drift in and out, like whatever you need. Like it's not set
Yeah, I
for the
think
introduction stuff.
it's partly this other ideas being, but like what a birth. But this I'm thinking, I put my own spin on it, but am I cheating because I'm just like going through the book? But of course I bring my own thing into it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think the other idea is more alive for me, but I feel like I want to do it again. And I thought, well, why not create a container to do that, but with other people as well. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Percolates.
Hmm.
Yeah. Aw. Well, have a great week,
Thank you.
and I
You too.
will speak soon.
Mhm.
All right. Bye,
All
Anne-Marie.
right. Thank you so much for staying and listening to this podcast. I hope you learned a lot more about astrology. And if you already are super interested in astrology, your signs, you read up on the movements, you plan the charts, and all of these things, I would love to hear more about that. If you are free to comment and if you want to share that, I'd love to do that. You can do that in the comments. You can send me a DM or Hannah a DM. All of the links for the social media are down below, so you can connect with us, you can stay on top of what we do, and we can just be business besties there if you want. And I will see you next week on Friday for a new episode of the podcast Biz on the Brain. So until then, wish you a fabulous week. Bye-bye.